This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse who bring you into the facts, the fascination, and the farm behind the New York Mets. We are coming to you after an 8-0 stomping by the Dodgers, and they are winning the series now 2-1. Ashley, how are we feeling?
I don't feel good. Honestly, my stomach's a little nauseous. I am approaching... I don't have it yet, but I'm approaching the panic button. That's all I'll say.
Just creeping towards it.
I am inching closer.
Yeah, this was bad. This was bad all around. There was scoring in the second. There was scoring in the sixth. There was the OHTANI MOONSHOT in the eighth, and a beautiful little Max Muncy homer to cap it all off with a chef's kiss in the ninth.
I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say what we're all thinking. I'm embarrassed. Tonight was embarrassing. You can take your game one, whatever, fine. The series is starting. You're in LA. We had the game one stomping, smoking, disaster, okay? Game three, we're back at Citi Field. I mean, you have a Citi Field crowd that hasn't been able to be there in years and years, the NLCS, since 2015. Everybody's excited. The place is sold out, and that's what you come out with. I'm embarrassed.
It was disgusting.
I'm disgusted.
It was honestly disgusting. The amount of fans who showed out, I'm cutting my highlights tonight because, again, we work at local stations in Syracuse, so I'm running this in my shows, and I'm looking at the fans in the beginning of the game. Little did they know. It was a crisp fall night tonight, okay? The hats were out. The gloves were out. People shelled out money to watch this catastrophe.
I mean, listen, a crisp fall night in Queens, like one of our commenters said the other day, they said the Dodgers aren't ready for a crisp fall night in Queens. Well, it turns out they were. The Dodgers were ready for a crisp fall night in Queens. I mean, Grimace was embarrassed tonight.
Dude, your mom, I feel like that needs to go on this podcast.
Let me, and I never feature her, so let me say something pertinent. My mother texting me, she goes, look at Grimace. This is an embarrassment on Citi Field. Mendoza fell asleep.
Like, you guys, it has been well documented that Ashley's dad is a Mets supporter and lifelong fan, longtime caller, longtime listener. When Ashley's mom is coming out of the woodworks to say, look at Grimace, we have a problem on our hands.
We have a problem. Although I will say my dad said not to panic yet, so we'll get there. We'll get there.
So we'll get there. I mean, listen, let's go through it. Second inning, Muncy scored, and Hernandez to third. We have Edman hitting that sacrifice fly to center, and there was the play there by Tylor and Tylor, which, honest to God,
catch of the damn year,
was the only like good play of the night. But that first run, I should mention, was actually scored off of it. Essentially, just like the ball just like bounced off Severino. Yeah. It was like an infield hit. So honestly, one of the wackier postseason games that I think we've both seen, to say the very least.
Yeah, some weird little infield hits, some weird stuff on defense all night long. Would like to mention, and we'll get there, Francisco Alvarez in that inning single-handedly handing the Dodgers a run on a silver platter by deciding to throw to second and not first when he had an easy out at first. Jose Iglesias didn't catch the ball either. It was a miscommunication on both sides, but I don't really know where Alvarez's head was on that play. Maybe somewhere that I won't say.
We are going to get more into the scoring summary, but it's just high time that we jump right to it.
No, it's high time.
It's high time. We may as well skip right here, baby.
It's tea time.
Alvarez is having significant problems, and it's worth saying that Ashley did say, I want to say 2 nights ago, or was that?
In our last episode.
I
keep calling things I don't want to call, folks.
She did. She nailed it. She essentially said we should be taking Alvarez out of the lineup. I wasn't there yet. And I'm just going to go on record and say the reason why I wasn't there yet is because, and then we'll get into essentially shitting on him, but the way he is able to frame pitches then and still now is absolutely fantastic. I watched a really cool breakdown one day by John Boy where it essentially showed, you could put it on me, so I'll show you. Essentially, as the ball is coming towards him, the pitcher is winding up, he puts his glove down, and then he puts it up as the pitch is coming, so that instead of having his glove up and essentially trying to frame it there, by putting his glove up at the time that the ball is going into his mitt, I think he's able to frame it really appropriately, and I have to say that I think he steals a lot of strikes. But beyond that, I have zippo left to say that's positive anymore.
I don't disagree with you, but I am not in the mood to say anything positive about Francisco Alvarez. tonight. I need him to have a day off. And the best part of this whole storyline is that Carlos Mendoza sat in his post-game press conference and said Francisco Alvarez is playing tomorrow.
Did he say why?
Isn't that just a special treat? He made some excuses as to why he hasn't been hitting, and then he said that he actually doesn't anticipate shaking up his lineup much at all for Game 4. He anticipates he wants his right-handed hitters in there versus Yamamoto. Francisco Alvarez will play. Jeff McNeil will not. He said, these are the guys that got us to that spot. Now, I don't disagree with you, Carlos Mendoza. These are the guys that got you to this spot, but you need to, listen, it is high time. We are actually running out of time.
Yeah.
This is the last episode that I'm not panicking, and this is what I consider a not panic, just to tell you all. They have time still, right? It's a 7-game series. The series is 2-1. They can still win 2 of 3 in New York, which in my opinion is what they need to do to win this series. But time is a-ticking. Time is running out. You don't have tomorrow to start wishing and hoping on a star that JD Martinez is going to finally figure out how to hit the ball, okay? We don't have tomorrow. We're running out of tomorrows. In fact.
Wait, you guys, this is her not panicking.
All right.
So imagine what happens.
I'll calm down. Imagine what happens when I do panic. But I will say, it's not just Alvarez. Jose Iglesias, JD Martinez. I mean, they're not even having productive at-bats. I have a stat against Walker Buehler that really was something from MLB Network. Walker Buehler's 18 swings and misses were the most through the first 4 innings of a postseason game by any pitcher since Kyle Loesch in 2003. 2003. The Mets were up there whiffing at pitches. They were not having good at bats. I mean, they were swinging at balls out of the strike zone, and then I swear to God, he was throwing them right down the middle of the plate, and they were standing there. What are we doing?
Like, dude,
what are we doing?
It was bad TV.
Bad television.
It was horrific television. It was turn the TV off style game, like throw up. There was 4 hits. Let's just start there. There was 4 hits tonight. Okay, obviously the Dodgers came ready to play and they smoked the ball and they scored 8 runs. But again, we go back to a very similar, a scary thematic thing from Game 1, which is that if you are not scoring any runs, you're not winning any playoff games. That's what's concerning about these losses, and even the broadcasters said it. This was not even, forget about a loss, this was not competitive baseball.
No.
This was actually an embarrassment. They got smoked. I need to see extra innings. I need to see fall crisp baseball.
I need to see a fight. A fight. They're not even throwing one punch. They're in the ring getting... listen, I'll get to Tylor Megill because I have thoughts, but to your exact point, you can't win when you get 4 hits, all right? It doesn't even matter what the pitching does. You simply cannot win the game.
Right.
And I'm sorry, we have defended Carlos Mendoza all year long on this podcast, a big advocate of what Carlos Mendoza has been able to do this year. But these lineup decisions right now are not sitting well with me. Why are we sitting Jesse Winker, the guy who has the 2nd highest postseason OPS on the team, against Walker Buehler?
Awful.
If we're not starting them against a righty, if we're not starting McNeil against a righty, why is McNeil on the postseason roster? You knew who the Dodgers pitchers were.
Right.
Why did he make the roster?
I actually agree. Why make the roster if you're not going to use him at all? And listen, to his point and to his credit, I get it that there are a lot of guys on this roster who are the reason, quote unquote, that got them here. But that is not a good enough reason to keep on doing something that is not working. Change doesn't happen unless change happens, baby. You got to do something new here to spark something different so we can see something competitive, for fuck's sake.
And you have to look at splits, and you have to look at, like, I mean, I know that Mendoza does, but you have to look at matchups. I mean, not even, like, sitting Winker and sitting McNeil against a righty, which Buehler was, which Yamamoto, again, is, when lefties have an 8.90 OPS versus Buehler this year. Like, what are we doing? I don't, I'm sorry. But then for him to then go into the postgame press conference and defend that decision tonight, no Winker, no McNeil, even though Iglesias and Martinez are lifeless, you might as well put them down as an offer every game. And then Alvarez.
He's the worst.
He's the terrible. Worst. He struck out. Okay. Just let me get out my Francisco Alvarez. He struck out 3 times in this game looking. He's left 10 runners on base in the last 2 games, and that defensive mistake quite literally single-handedly led to a run. He is not giving you nothing. Zip. Nada. Maybe he buys you 3 strikes because he frames them well the entire game, but I mean, that's not good enough.
It's not good enough.
Luis Torrens, no matter how comfortable this pitching staff is with Francisco Alvarez, which I know that they are because he's been the guy all year, you just cannot tell me that they wouldn't do just fine with Luis Torrens for 1 game.
The only other thing I'll point out, and again, this is not me, I'm not even defending him. I do think, especially when it's not just that you have a backup catcher, it's the fact that it is Luis Torrens. He's certainly more than capable. But I will say in the high pressure moments, when the Mets are playing competitive baseball, I do think there is a certain level of trust there with Alvarez that you're not getting with any other catcher. There have sincerely been times where he's walked up, moseyed on up to the mound, talked to Diaz, and really turned things around from a mental standpoint. So that's the only other thing I'll point out as far as an aspect that he brings. But I agree, it's not enough, and it's not just the fact that he struck out looking 3 times. His at-bats in general sucked.
Terrible. Like, he looks terrible at the plate.
Yeah.
Awful.
Oh, awful.
Give him a day off. I'm not saying he loses his job to Luis Torrens. I'm saying he needs to sit his ass butt on the bench for 1 game. Sorry, there's some cursing in this episode.
For one game. Listen, on the other side, we may as well just say it. Severino's final line, 4.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 runs that scored, 3 strikeouts and 4 walks. I gotta say it, like the dude had a decent day.
He had a decent day, kept him in the game. Would I have liked for him to go longer than 4.2 innings pitched? Yes. But the guy gave up 2 runs. They weren't even earned. He kept them in this game. And then old friend, Reed Garrett. I'm not even the most mad at Reed Garrett. Everyone knows who I'm the most mad at. An older friend named Tylor Megill.
The oldest friend and the oldest enemy.
Oh my God. All right. Listen, I know Garrett gave up the home run to Hernandez. I understand what happened in the game, okay? But Tylor Megill coming into this game, essentially the game wasn't over when it was 4-0 Dodgers. Was it a harder hill to climb? Sure. But it wasn't certifiably dead in the water.
Yeah.
Tylor Megill, doing what he does best, comes into this game and makes it dead in the water. I know he's been better in the postseason. I understand what the stats are. Tylor Megill and I just have an unfortunate relationship throughout this Mets season, okay? He comes into this game.
It's toxic.
It's toxic. He has 3 innings pitched. I literally looked at you. Not to say that I keep calling things. I didn't call the home run, but I looked at you and I said, when OHTANI is strolling his little face, he's strolling up to the plate. He's got his smile on. It's Shohei OHTANI. He's like the best hitter in baseball. And I said, wouldn't this just be ironic? Because Shohei OHTANI has been really bad in the postseason. Was hitting about 200 in the postseason before this.
And I don't think he had a hit tonight.
And he didn't. And I said, what a matchup this is. Tylor Megill versus Shohei OHTANI. Seems a little one-sided. And then OHTANI hits it to literally New Jersey. New Jersey. He hits it to New Jersey.
I knew you were going to say that.
The scream that I scrumped, okay? I know they were probably going to lose even before that, but the OHTANI, something about that was just the icing on the cake of my mental breakdown tonight.
You guys, this was, and mind you, okay, this was really, it was not a home run, because the word home run doesn't describe this hit. It was a mother effing moonshot. It was actually so high that I almost feel like jokingly reviewed it. And then
the broadcast gives us no update on the review. I just have to assume it was a home run.
Yeah, wait, did anyone else hear that? Question of the day. Was anyone confused in that moment? Because the graphics are coming up, they're reviewing it. Let's just say it, they're not in the postseason overturning an OHTANI home run.
No, they're not.
But my point is, the ball was so high over the foul pole that you almost couldn't.
The ball was
in New Jersey. What could you even do?
It was in New Jersey.
It was horrific. And you knew. At that, the Max Muncy was almost just like laughable. It was just like pile
I'm
on.
actually going to turn off the TV.
Yeah. It was like the fans, you may as well just walk out of the stadium. But the OHTANI, I mean, Tylor Megill, listen, at that point, I guess you could just say that game went from it's possible to we're sincerely punting and moving on to tomorrow. And that sucks.
And when he continued to pitch Tylor Megill through 3 innings through the rest of the game,
they proved
that's when you knew they punted. I know they lost the game because they got 4 hits. That I'll be the first one to tell you that. But that OHTANI home run and the pitching, the walks with this pitching staff is another thing I need to point out, okay? Luis Severino walked 4 batters. Tylor Megill walked 3. So that's 7 walks from your pitching staff. I'm going to need this staff as a collective unit to find the strike zone. That goes for the starters. That goes for the closer. That goes for the bullpen. We saw Phil Maton struggle with it. We've seen Edwin Diaz struggle with it. The Mets have walked 18 batters in the first 2+ games of this series. 18 batters.
Not
Let's
good.
find the strike zone, please, and thank you.
Actually, bad. I would also like to add to that while we're here.
Sure.
At a crisp 12:09 a.m.
While we're here.
While we're chatting. I actually thought Alvarez aside, just bad at-bats tonight in general.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of the time you were able to look at the Mets and you felt like at least they're fighting, they're hanging in. And on some of these really great hits that you've seen, even Vientos, like what a great at-bat that was, fouling the ball off. It just didn't feel competitive tonight.
No.
And there have even, I feel like because we have this newfound sense of hope this year with this 2024 team, honestly, they were down 4 runs, and I actually felt like neither of us were out of it. We were like, all right, it's a steeper hill, but we know how the Mets are in the late innings.
Against bullpens,
and the come from behind and all of that. The OHTANI was to quote Gary Cohen, they put the hammer down on the Mets tonight.
Yeah.
And you kind of knew beyond that point it wasn't going to work, but I just need to see more of a fire. I need to see a team that's playing like any day now could be the last day, because it really could be.
We're running out of tomorrows.
Right.
We are.
The magic has been going on for so long, but the magic can only carry you so far.
Yeah.
We need to see more hits, or else this is going to be a problem. And to your point, just to kind of round it out on this episode, why I felt like tonight, and you said it, was a good opportunity is because now instead, now that you've lost that game, yeah, the pressure's a little higher, your backs are a little more against the wall. We said, coming into, even in the last episode, we said, you have to win 2 here. So that means, based on that math, that there's only 2 games left and they need to win 2. It's a tougher hill to climb.
You simply cannot go back to Los Angeles having to win 2 games. You can't. I feel extremely not confident in that situation, which brings us to, then you need to win the next 2 in New York. Jose Quintana is pitching tomorrow. He's been very good this postseason. Very good. That comforts me slightly. Yamamoto is pitching tomorrow. He has been very good in the past, but has a 5.63 ERA in the postseason. I don't really know if it comforts me that Carlos Mendoza is planning on trotting out essentially the same lineup tomorrow, because I don't know how many more Francisco Alvarez, Jose Iglesias, and JD Martinez at bats I can sit through. All I know is we're running out of tomorrow. This team has fought back so many times. We've said it so many times. They fight and they fight and they fight. Tomorrow's it. If you don't win tomorrow and the Dodgers are up 3-1 in this series and you got 1 more game at home, it might be all over. It is the last night that I certainly don't feel good and I don't feel confident, specifically when not only are you down 2 losses, but you got blown out in both of those 2 losses.
Blown out.
And actually the only game you won was the bullpen game the Dodgers threw. So when you consider that, not feeling so hot. At the same time, I know this team can fight back. I am sure they will come out with more fire tomorrow. And Jose Quintana's been really good. But if he's not, and if they don't hit again tomorrow, like, we've reached the end of the line. And I feel confident saying that.
If he's really good tomorrow and they don't hit, we've still reached the end of the line. You feel me?
End of the line.
Those 2 things need to happen together.
Yeah.
In sync. I feel like even if, I'm going to be honest, I actually still feel like even if they could win 1 at Citi Field, I'm just saying, Ashley, I wouldn't count them out, because I actually won't count them out of literally anything anymore. Ever since Pete Alonso hit that home run against the Brewers, I'll actually never count them out until the game is completely and totally over.
I understand.
But I understand your point too. And I think that winning 2 here, it feels like, from the probability standpoint, from the statistics, from the crowd, this is the place to do it, man. And on top of all of that, I know we hit this in the intro, but like the fans showed out for you.
Yeah.
Like, have some pride in that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no way around it. It's been 3 games. It's a best of 7. We are not full-blown panicking. This is me convincing myself throughout this episode.
Haven't you liked the, we're done,
listening.
we're so back, we're done, we're so back.
But at the same time, the Dodgers have been a better team than the Mets through 3 games of this series. That's really just, I think that's undoubtable, right? The Mets won game 2, and they won it pretty substantially, but that was against a bullpen game that the Dodgers threw. The Dodgers are not throwing a bullpen game tomorrow, and tomorrow is the pivotal day. You have to win tomorrow.
We need to see some competitive baseball here. For everyone looking ahead, as always, we really appreciate your support, all the new subscribers that we've gotten in the postseason. Tomorrow, Ashley and I are Zooming. She's not going to be here. We'll Zoom. We'll have something up for you as fast as possible. On Friday, she won't be here. Dan the man is coming in. He's going to sit in for an episode. And then Sunday, as long as all goes well, we will be back here Sunday doing another episode.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
You see us on Sunday.
You see us on Sunday. Beyond that, you can find us anywhere. Twitter, Instagram, social media, YouTube. The handle is all the same, @YMetsPod. Thank you sincerely. We really appreciate your support, especially when you come for the losses. We will see you back here soon enough. Thanks for joining us.